Welcome to the Prep Huddle podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher alongside my Gazette colleagues, Jeff Johnson and Jeff Linder, ready to discuss a little bit of Week 9 playoffs for small classes, 2A, 1A, A, and 8-player, while 3A, 4A, and 5A finish up the regular season here in Week 9. We'll also discuss a little bit about Week 8, but guys, I guess what are your thoughts about a little bit of the staggered playoffs that we have here with the small schools kind of having that play-in game a little bit, round of 32, and then things will get reset for the round of 16 next week as all five classes will be bracketed in. But is this a good thing to accommodate having that bigger field for those classes with, those larger, or I guess classes with more teams in it?
How do other states do it, guys? I guess I'm ignorant on that fact. Imagine that, but I think the more
I have enough keeping track what's going on here. I don't know what the other states do.
The more they get in, to me, the more they get in. I mean, I like that, and you can always say, well, the 4 seeds or the wild card teams will never beat the 1 seeds, but I don't know that necessarily is a slam dunk guarantee every season. So I don't know. I guess that's just my opinion. It is weird, KJ, no doubt that sitting here with one regular season week for some schools in the playoffs the other, and but it is what it is, I guess, and I'm okay with the way they do it. Jeff, what do you think?
I think they have it differently because the coaches association, the small schools wanted to do it different than the big schools. I might be wrong, but I think that's the case. It's fine. If you had 32, well, you can't really have 32 qualifiers in the other classes. If you're going to do that, you might as well just let everybody in, and because there's only 36 and 3A, 4A, 5A. What's that, KJ?
Especially 5A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. I guess I really don't care either way. If everybody went with 16, I'd be fine with that too. If they wanted to let everybody in, I wouldn't be crazy about it. But there's a cat. But that would be, that's fine too. I'm not here to second guess.
Well, let's start with last week's action.
Sorry about
some regular season finales for the small schools. Some really important games in the kind of the RPI landscape for the bigger schools. Guys, where were you last week? And JJ, why don't you start? Were you at Marion last week?
Yeah. And boy, wasn't it something to watch football in a downpour, huh? 3 hours.
What a miserable night.
Oh, it was. My goodness gracious. And yeah, I was at Marion. Marion really took care of Mason City in a game it needed to win. Certainly held Mason City without a first down, I think, until the very last drive of the game, and Mason City had negative yardage. Yeah, it was big, and actually communicated with Coach Michael Joyner this morning, and he thought originally that win last week would get Marion into the Class 4A playoffs, but now he says no, that's not necessarily the case. Mentioning that unexpected losses by ADM and Bondurant Farrar have kind of thrown some things into chaos, and he thinks that they might need to win Friday night at Waverly Shell Rock, which will be a very difficult task to get into the playoffs. Otherwise, he thinks they'll be like last year, the first team out, type of scenario. So that would be unfortunate, but you're still in control of your own destiny, I guess. So you got to win.
Yeah, and that was you mentioned big one for them, and a lot of it has to do with the fact how they had a kind of a sky high win against Decorah, right, the week before that put them in good position. It's easy to kind of overlook a team like Mason City and think you'll just stroll right through, but kudos to them for staying on top of things and not looking to week 9 in that Waverly Shell Rock contest and take care of business last week.
I think, I think that if you get behind Friday, or if you got behind Friday night, must have just been miserable. So I guess my opinion would be if you got up, if you getting up early, getting a lead early in those games Friday night was just hugely important, just from a psychological standpoint, right? All of them.
I would say so, and I think that was the case at Bates Field where I was at.
Yeah.
City High and Linn-Mar. We talked last week about how it was not necessarily a must win, but a much needed win for both of those teams for their playoff hopes. And City High came out with a 30-0 win. Of course, Bates's turf field, and with the rain all night, it really wasn't that bad. Wasn't that swampy or as swampy as I thought it would be. The grass held up. It was really soft when I went down for interviews, but City High looked really good. And of course, they got that early lead, big touchdown pass from Bobby Bacon to Jeremiah Madlock, put them up 7-0, and really, they just kind of had their way with Linn-Mar defensively. Shut out the Lions, held them to, I can't remember the exact number, but I think maybe it was 19 yards passing, even, especially in the conditions. You said it was miserable. Sam Keeter, I asked him about playing in those conditions, especially with the natural surface and not the turf. And he said, "Hey, a lot of people may not like our field, but we love it, Mud Bowl, and he loved playing in those conditions, and it showed." They really dominated from that first score on, and now they have a little more breathing room. Obviously, going to Bettendorf this week, and things are a little tighter for Linn-Mar, even though they still have a decent shot at making the playoffs, regardless of how they do against Pleasant Valley at Linn-Mar Stadium. So we'll see how that all unfolds this week. Linder, where were you at for week 8?
Well, you were a lot more dedicated than I was Friday. I was at Prairie, and I did not go down for quotes. It was just pouring. The home team had lost 35-8, so I just rode a straight gamer running and got out of there. So I was at Prairie, 35-8. Not what I expected. Prairie got a safety early, and then they were driving. I think they were probably maybe within 30 or 40 yards of the end zone, which could have given them a 8 or 9 or 10-0 lead, but that stalled. Bettendorf was able to flip the field with a punt, and they started at the 10 and then fumbled it away in the end zone for a touchdown, and just didn't get any better from there for Prairie. Bettendorf pretty much had their way with them. Prairie lost their quarterback to injury. The backup did a pretty nice job. So just one of those nights for Prairie, and it wasn't their night.
So we both covered Linn-Mar and Prairie. Both have big games here in week 9. What is I know you did a primer and stuff for the playoffs and everything, but where do they kind of stand here going into week 9? Because they're right there, that 13 through 15.
Yeah.
spot in the RPIs. Good chances of getting in, but certainly far from being locks to get in, depending on how some other
Yeah.
teams do.
Well, they both got beat and they both got beat bad last week, but the good news is they still have destiny in their own hands. Prairie's sitting at 13 right now. With a win, they're in. With a loss, it's wait and see. Let me kind of see what I said here because I kind of did some number crunching. Prairie, let's see, they're sitting 13th. They win, they'll probably be 12 or so. A loss, if they would lose, and if Linmar and or Davenport West would win, both are underdogs, then Prairie's probably going to be out. Linmar, if they can beat Pleasant Valley, they're in. If they lose, they could get in as the 16 if everybody beneath them would lose too. That would include Davenport West. That would include Iowa City West. So they need Prairie to win if they lose. If Urbandale would win, they would jump Linmar with a loss. So, they're both in a situation where it's not. It's kind of win or else. Win or else. It's not in your hands anymore.
Kind of looking at some other scores, the big one that really kind of stands out, not necessarily for our area or the playoff race, but Southeast Polk comes away with a 37-34 win over West Des Moines Dowling, kind of the marquee matchup there in week 8, I would say. Connor Moberly threw for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns. CJ Phillip rushed for 105 yards and 2 scores. Sam Zelenovich, the junior wideout, had 8 catches for 103 yards, and both of those catching both of those TD passes from Moberly. But when it was all said and done, just the 3-point difference between the top 2 teams in the state. Is this probably a matchup we see in the Dome? Maybe for all the marbles here in 5A.
My opinion is those teams are far and above everyone else. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how everything's bracketed. That's just my opinion, and we'll see how everything's bracketed out. But at this point in time, we had some upheaval in 5A in our rankings again this week, right? So I just think they're better than everyone else, and you got to prove it now in the playoffs. But that's just my. Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. They're the 2 best teams, but you look at Southeast Polk. They beat Valley by 6. They beat Centennial by 3. They beat Johnson by 3. Dowling, they had some close ones too, didn't they? Not really. A lot of 14 to 17 point wins in there. Centennial by 13, Kennedy 17, Valley 14, Northwest 14. So it's not like either of them are just drilling everything in sight, steamrolling everybody. But yeah, I agree. If they play well, they'll probably be playing for the championship in week 13.
Another look here. Iowa City Liberty was a big winner. 44-0 over Waterloo West. Iowa City West fell to Pleasant Valley 38-25. The big shocker, I think, seeing how Kennedy had been playing recently, watching Cedar Falls lose to Prairie in the opener. Thought Kennedy was at a point where it would go up there and be fine, but for the second straight years, they come up short at the Unidome against Cedar Falls, this time losing 17-14. Were you guys surprised as I was there?
I was, yeah, because Kennedy had been playing really well. And, the Dome's not an easy team to play. Cedar Falls always plays well there. But I thought Kennedy was kind of on a roll. And I thought they'd be able to overcome all that.
Yeah, I agree, Jeff. And Cedar Falls has been kind of one of those teams that I haven't been able to figure out. Has some good wins, has some losses that maybe kind of make you scratch your bald head a little bit. But that was a surprise. I really, like Jeff said, I thought Kennedy was really on a upswing. Definitely had the arrow pointing upward. But like Jeff said, kids, and I mean, it's tough to play up there in that dome. It really is, and I guess that was proven out.
Moving to 4A, looking at a couple scores in the area. Xavier clinches district title with a 35-7 win at Clear Creek Amana. Western Dubuque continues to roll, beating Decorah 28-7 on Friday. Some of the more notable scores coming outside of our area, when you look at Lewis Central with a decisive win over Norwalk 42-13. Lindy, you kind of JJ, I think you kind of touched on it with the conversation with Coach Joyner. Indianola knocking off ADM 24-0. And then I believe there's another one here Pella. Pella surprised a lot of people beating Xavier earlier in the season, and here they come away with a 40-13 win over Bondurant Farrar. Like you said, kind of shook things around in Class 4A, but that's might show Eastern Iowa hasn't dropped off a little bit from those Central Iowa teams, like it may have looked like maybe in midseason that the ADMs, Bondurant Farrars, and some other teams there in Central Iowa may have kind of pulled away a little bit. But looks like we're going to have that parity word in the postseason. A lot of unpredictable results in Class 4A.
Yeah,
and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree, Jeff. But I think you look at that cluster of teams in Central Iowa, they've just kind of proven they can beat each other, right?
Yeah.
All those schools. And man, Pella's kind of come out of nowhere, guys, to me, and put themselves, I think, in a pretty decent spot here to make the 4A playoffs. So,
that Pella's roller coaster where they beat Xavier, lost to Newton, and beating Bondurant Farrar, kind of some ups and downs along the way.
How many teams are there in 4A that could win the whole thing? 8, 10?
I was going to say 7 or 8.
Yeah.
That's a real possibility.
I kind of look at 4A, and 1A is kind of the same way to me. I think maybe a little bit that way too. So that makes it fun, at least for me.
And really quick here, in Class 3A, West Delaware with a big win over Independence last week, 29-21. That was a good win for the Hawks. Solon continues to roll. They followed up the win over Williamsburg by trouncing Fairfield 42-6. And speaking of Williamsburg, boy, they bounced back from their first loss of the season. They handled Grinnell, a good Grinnell team, 63-8. Mount Vernon also won big, 65-6. So seems like those area schools in 3A, especially Mount Vernon, Solon, Williamsburg, they seem to be hitting their stride here as they finish up the regular season and kind of pose themselves for the playoffs.
That's another class that there's a lot of teams that I think could win it. And teams like Webster City or Harlan or Humboldt that are, sitting at the bottom of the top 10 or not even in the top 10, and or a West Delaware or somebody like that. There's just so many. There's a lot of depth there, and I think Creston's the favorite. at 8-0. They've beaten some good teams. They beat Lewis Central. They were in a really good district, and they won that without a loss. So I think they're the favorite. But you know, we got some teams right in our little neighborhood that they're going to make some noise too.
We talked about some of the games coming up this week that were big. We mentioned Linmar, PV, Prairie, Iowa City West, or that's going to be big. Outside of that, any other 3A, 4A, 5A games that kind of stand out to you that might kind of alter the playoff picture a little bit?
To be honest, I haven't looked that far ahead. I think most of the big games are done. There might be some here or there. Xavier's going to be heavily favored. Western Dubuque, I don't think they're going to have much trouble this week. I mean, Solon, Williamsburg, Mount Vernon, Assumption, they've kind of already had their showdowns. So I'm sure they're out there. I know there's one district in 3A out northwest that I think right now, if the playoffs were today, 5 teams out of that district would be in.
Wow.
Including like a 5-3 Hampton Dumont squad. So I know there will be a lot that'll be settled in that district on Friday.
So I'll turn to the postseason, the start for 2A, 1A, and 8-player, and I'll rifle off our area games here. Anamosa 4-4 heads to Mediapolis at 6-2. Union Community 2-6 at Walk-On 5-3. I will be covering the 2A playoff game between North Fayette Valley 3-5 and Monticello 7-1 at Monticello this Friday. Make sure to get early in case we're able to get autograph sessions in for anybody that's interested. Crestwood 3-5 heads to Jessup at 5-3, and Northeast 4-4 at Mid Prairie 4-4 in Class 2A. Any of those teams there kind of stand out to you? I know Walk On has really played well the last half of the season. Monticello has been pretty much a top 5 team with its only loss coming to Mount Vernon to start the season, right?
Yeah.
Or in week 2. Okay. But and I know Meepo has been kind of on the verge of the top 10 throughout the season at 6-2, but Walk On, Monticello, Jessup looks to be in a good spot to move into the round of 16.
Yeah, I don't think that North Fayette Valley Monticello match is necessarily going to be a mismatch. I think Monticello's schedule has been weak since week 1. That's not a very strong district. I do think they're a very good team. I think North Fayette Valley, they're 3-5, but I think they're going to go up there and compete. And I don't think we're going to see a continuous clock. I think it's going to be about a 2-score game. I think the team that we probably haven't mentioned at all has been Jessup. I'm not saying that they're going to win or they're going to go far, but I think they're only making their 3rd playoff appearance and their first in 8 or 10 years. So kudos to the Jayhawks.
Oh, for sure.
Look at what Walk-On did too again, guys, right? Just when you think you've left them for dead with a tough non-district schedule, they're able to turn it around again and win the district and head to the playoffs on an upswing there at 5-3. So
Yep. And with their history, you can never kind of take them for granted. That's a team that they know what it takes. Probably a lot of family members that have watched their siblings make those runs to the Unidome. So they'll be interesting to watch. The last thing I'll say about North Fayette Valley and Monty, I think you're looking at 2 totally different styles of football. think you've got one that would like to slow it down and really pound out, you know, pound out a low scoring game, and you got another one that likes to open it up and let it fly. So whoever is able to kind of establish their brand of football is going to come out on top there. So we'll see. That'll be fun to watch on Friday. In Class 1A, the area games, you got Cascade 2-6 at Grundy Center 8-0, Hudson 5-3 at MFL Marmac 7-1, Eddyville Blakesburg Fremont 3-5 at Iowa City Regina 7-1, West Central Valley 3-5 at Sigourney Keota 7-1, Pleasantville 5-3 at West Branch 5-3, and JJ, you just got done doing a little bit of a feature on West Branch and kind of their season and how they're back in the playoffs, except this time without their legendary coach, the late Butch Peterson. On paper, 5-3, 5-3, could be a big game, but I'm guessing the Bears are amped up for this opportunity.
Yeah, I talked to Coach John Hirschman, and he just kind of mentioned that. I mean, they kind of knew that it was going to be one of those tough years, obviously with Butch passing away. But I mean, they faced some injuries here down the stretch. They had that really tough first couple games for the 3 games actually. Having to play Williamsburg, Dike, New Hartford, and Waterloo, Columbus off the top, and they've been able to rebound and respond to that. They had a little bit of a quarterback shuffling. Didn't know who the QB was going to be to start the season. And in game 3, they went to a sophomore. So, the big win over Regina, 3 weeks ago now, I think was one he said that really gave him a lot of confidence. And he was the one that mentioned that 1A is really, in his opinion, kind of an open deal here. And they plan on hopefully sticking around here for a little while. And I think he mentioned that they played Pleasantville maybe in the late 80s or early 90s in the
Really?
playoff. He wasn't 100% sure, but he believes that's what it was. So, and he mentioned Pleasantville's got some nice components. It's not going to be, like you said, KJ, not going to be an easy game by any stretch.
It's kind of interesting, Lindy, that of course this is just our area, of course, in our circulation area that has a little bit of an odd shape, but we've got 3 teams, district champs or co-champs, however you want to phrase it, but they're number 1 seeds, all at 7-1, and none of them have played each other. When you're looking at MFL Marmac, Regina, and Sigourney Keota, I know there are times where Sigourney Keota and Regina have been in the same district or played each other, but you've got those teams. That's going to be hard to kind of separate or really decipher which teams are better come the next round when you're really kind of laying the paths out for teams. Won't it be tough?
Yeah.
Assuming
I don't
they all
know.
win, that is.
Right.
Assuming they all win this round.
Yeah.
Sure.
I guess I don't know what the pecking order is in 1A. You got to throw Grundy Center in there too, because they're pretty, they're kind of close locale too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if I had to pick which one's the best. I don't know who I'd go with. My gut feeling says MFL. But that's yet to be determined.
I'll say this about MFL. Since their loss and then they turned around and gave up a TD on the opening drive to Dike New Hartford. Since that TD on the opening drive against the Wolverines, they've outscored their opponents 96-14 since then.
Yeah.
62-7 last 2 weeks with Denver. Really not a surprise against Central Springs, but still. And they host Hudson. But yeah, MFL really has bounced back since that loss to Sumner Fredericksburg. Let's move to Class A here, the area qualifying teams. We got Southwind at 5-3, at East Buck 6-2, Maquoketa Valley 6-2, at Columbus Community 6-2, North Butler 6-2, at Starmont 7-1, and then I think all of us would agree probably the biggest game out of that group, Northland 6-2 at Lisbon 8-0. Tough draw both ways right out of the gate. But guys, just Class A, just those 4 games in general, 4 really good matchups to kick off the postseason for them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I look at. Go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry.
No, I'm flipping pages. You go ahead.
No, I was
And I
just going
would
to
say
say that.
Southwind has come on strong. I mean, they've got the worst record at 5-3 out of all of them, and go to East Buck, who I think a lot of us, expect big things out of. But Southwind has played really well lately, so that's not a gimme for the Buccaneers at all. JJ, go ahead with what you were going to say.
No, I was just going to. The Maquoketa Valley Columbus game is intriguing because I think there's a couple of predominant running backs there, one for each team. Obviously, some equal records at 6-2. I think North Butler and Starmont. I mean, for Starmont, Renaissance year, you win your district, you get a top seed, and the team you play as the 4th seed is 6-2. North Butler, that just kind of goes to show the strength, I think, of the district that North Butler was in. And then, like you said, Pilch, I mean, Lisbon and Northland. Northland was part of a really good district, obviously, and finished 4th. And Lisbon was champion of its district, which, quite frankly, I don't think was very strong. So I think I don't know what you guys think, but I think that game in particular is kind of a toss up. Do you agree?
Yeah,
Even
absolutely.
though, you got a 1 seed against. So
I of those 4 games that we've got going in Class A, there's not one that you can say, oh, that's going to be it's going to go this way or that way. I think all 4 of them are going to be competitive. That includes the 4 versus 1 games. I'd say Northland's probably favored to beat Lisbon.
Do you?
I think so. But we'll see. And I don't think anybody knows for sure how good Lisbon really is yet. They might be better than I think. They haven't played a very strong schedule, but if they go out and beat Northland Friday, they're pretty darn good because Northland's good.
Yep.
Lisbon handled Columbus in their district game, and Columbus has a nice team. One thing with Lisbon is they've got speed. They're fast. That was proven in track, and you don't want. If I'm Northland, I'm kind of hoping for some adverse weather on Friday.
Just a little stat to kind of throw out there. I believe the top 4 teams in Class A District 4 are 23-4 overall in their district games. And all but 1 was decided by 17 points or more. So
yeah,
kind of figured that out.
They kind of took turns beating the heck out of each other.
Yeah, the only one that wasn't was Mac Valley's 22-15 win over Northland. BC Moore apparently has all 4 predicted to win. So none of these games will be easy. As we mentioned, Southwind's won 5-0.
Yeah.
Go to East Buck, and Columbus Community has been a team that can light up the scoreboard as well. So it'll be interesting to see. You might have a scorekeep with Lance McShane and Columbus Community's offense. You might have have to get a bowling glove for whoever's doing the scoreboard, so they don't get carpal tunnel. There, but
going back to that Northland Lisbon game, Northland's given up 9 points a game, Lisbon 7. So I think that's gonna be the opposite of that. Of the carpal tunnel bowl. I think the over under on that might be 30.
Young man I was thinking of from Columbus is Caden Amagon, who's had a great career, great run here the last 2 years. He has 1,600 yards rushing, 25 touchdowns. So him and Lance McShane, that could be an interesting little tete, I guess. Sorry, Pilch.
Oh no, it's all good. We'll move to 8-player now. A lot of games here to finish up what's coming up this week. Turkey Valley 5-3 at Clarksville, 9-0. Belle Plaine 4-4 at Winfield Mountain Union, 8-0. Iowa Valley 6-2 at BGM, 5-3 BGM with the win over Moravia to win the district title last week. Lansing Key 6-2 comes down to Central City 7-1. Linder, you're going to be at that game off Highway 13 there. So the Hawks, the Key Hawks, and Wildcats. We've got Edco 5-3 at Don Bosco, 7-1. Montezuma 5-4 at Gladbrook Rhinebeck, 7-1. And then we mentioned Moravia, they're 7-2 at Lone Tree, 6-2. Central City really, I mean, it's safe to say this is their best team in quite a while, and they certainly have the potential for a deep run, depending on how kind of the brackets play out, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. They dropped a 44-36 game to Winfield Mount Union in the first week of the season. Winfield's number 1 now. I think Central City was up in that game. I think they led most of the game. So I think 8-player is another class that's got some depth to it. I'm not sure there's a team that stands out. There's a team like Don Bosco could make a run. You hate to talk about Don Bosco as a Cinderella or a dark horse, but I think they're right in there. And I think Central City's in there. I think at the very least, Central City is a quarterfinal caliber team and a team that could go to the Dome and could go really, really deep.
JJ, we've talked about parity with some of the classes. How do you feel 8-player kind of fits in there? Usually it hasn't really had that parity. You might have one team like a Don Bosco or a Montezuma make some noise, but a lot of the power still kind of has been out in Western Iowa. With the likes of Winfield Mount Union, even Clarksville, Central City, do you feel like there's more? There's a deeper group of teams that can contend?
Yeah, I do. And I will preface this by saying that eight players always been the biggest class for me to not understand. I maybe it's just the game itself. 8 players instead of 11 is a little harder to decipher. But yeah, I mean, look at all the undefeated teams, right? Like you mentioned, we've all mentioned Winfield Mount Union. Clarksville's 9-0 and beat Gladbrook Rhinebeck, which is a really good team. Remsen St. Mary's is sitting back there at 8-0. You mentioned Don Bosco. You mentioned Central City. Waco's only has one loss, and that's to Winfield Mount Union, I believe. So, yeah, this to me, Cam. We haven't even mentioned Cam and Anita 8-0, Bedford 8-0, out there in Western Iowa, both those schools. So,
Hey, don't forget the Audubon Wheelers.
That's right.
Wheelers are having a good season.
One loss, I believe, right?
7-1.
For Audubon. So, yeah. I mean, it's that game is that class has always really confounded me as far as predictions. Not that I have an easy time predicting anything, but
right.
This one in particular. But just looking at all the undefeated teams that kind of made it through here, I think it's going to be a fun class to kind of watch play out.
The team that nobody's talking about is the defending champion, Remsen St. Mary's.
Yep, exactly.
And I know one of us, I'm not going to say who, has had him number 1 on their 8-player bet. Oh, okay, there he is.
I'll say
had him number 1 all year, and that looks like why not? They're the defending champs. They're undefeated. So yeah.
I almost broke my arm, pat myself on the back right now, even though it doesn't mean anything. We'll see how they're sitting in 4 weeks from now if they make it that far. But yeah. Any other last bit of notes before we kind of transition into the gameplay of our podcast for you guys, whether it's general comments, something from last week's results, or what you're looking forward to this Friday?
I'll just say that this has been one of the more enjoyable seasons as far as tracking the races in all 7 classes, just because I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite. I don't think you can pencil in a state champion in any class right now. And that hasn't always been the case. There have been the Regina years or whatever that you just knew they were going to win it. And I don't think we have that in any class this year. And I think, and I've said this before, I think in several of the classes we've got 6 to 8 teams that could be holding the trophy in the dome here in 4 weeks.
It's funny you say that. It's funny that you say that because there's a lot of times where I'll try to plan ahead and try to figure out how many teams we might have at the dome. And you really can't do that. There are some classes where, depending on where they split people,
Yeah.
you're going to have multiple teams there, depending on what directions they get sent and odds, whatever, what have you. Yeah, you really can't do that. Just because things have been so unpredictable and teams have been so balanced as far as their results have gone. All right. Do you guys want to start with our version of the match game, or do you want to kick out who's got more here really quick?
Oh, let's do who's got more, and then we'll get into the real fun here. Who's got more? I can't do that.
Okay.
I'm not good at that game.
This is going to be. I think these will be a little bit easier. So we mentioned that I will be heading up to Monticello for the Panthers postseason opener against North Fayette Valley. So who has more as far as TDs? Monticello's Preston Reese or North Fayette Valley as a team?
Jeff, you want to go first?
I'll say Preston Reese.
Okay.
I will be contrarian and go NFV.
North Fayette Valley has 25 TDs. Preston Reese has 38 total touchdowns.
Wow. I guess that's why he's going to Iowa.
There you go. We mentioned Sigourney Keota. They're 7-1 this season. They host West Central Valley in the opener in Class 1A. Does Sigourney Keota have more punts or forced turnovers? Sigourney Keota punts versus Sigourney Keota turnovers forced.
Go ahead, JJ.
Forced turnovers.
Okay.
I'll say the same.
Okay. Sigourney Keota has forced 17 total turnovers. I think it's 12 and 5 interceptions to fumbles. They have only punted 15 times this season. So less than 2 punts a game out of that group. So their offense, obviously run heavy, has been very dominant all season. I think they're on a 7-game win streak too after losing their opener.
So you're saying Sigourney Keota punts about as much in one game as Iowa does in a quarter.
Hey, you said it, not me. But
punting is winning. That's what they say there.
They're 6-1, baby. All right. So we mentioned Southwind's on a 5-game win streak, and they had to Winthrop to face East Buchanan, who was 6-2. So who has more combined sacks and tackles for loss? Southwind or East Buck?
Tackles for loss, 5. I'm going to say.
While he ponders, I'll say Southwind.
Okay.
I will agree.
East Buchanan has 67. That's 46 and a half tackles for loss and 20 and a half sacks. Southwind has 71 and a half. That's just 12 sacks, but 59 and a half tackles for loss. So they've really, I'm sure during that 5-game win streak, they've lived on the other side of the line of scrimmage. With kind of a lower number in sacks and a high number in tackles for loss, I'm either guessing they've got real aggressive corners or they might run blitz a little bit, which is something that doesn't get talked a lot about. Blitzing, you assume it's just going after the quarterback on passing plays, but Southwind might have a little bit of a different approach there. But Southwind has the edge on combined sacks and tackles for loss. Now, who has the most offensive yards? We've got Lansing Key coming down to Central City. So who has more combined passing and rushing yards, Central City or Lansing Key?
I guess it's my turn to go first. I'll go Central City.
Okay.
I know Key High is really explosive. They can score a lot of points. I'll go with Key.
All right. Lansing Key has 3,111 total yards of passing and rushing. That's 1,608 passing, 1,503 rushing. Central City has 2,785. So Lansing Key has the edge there by about 326 yards. So we'll see how that plays out. And of course, they've got a couple good defensive players on each side of the ball. That'll be interesting to watch. I think Mekhi Benton has about 17 sacks for the Wildcats. And then is it Dylan Mutterman, I think, for Lansing Key that has a bunch of tackles for loss as well. So the last one of who's got more? Who has more wins of 30 points or more? Iowa City, Regina, Western Dubuque, or Starmont? So through 8 weeks, who has more wins of 30 points or more?
I'm gonna say Regina.
Okay.
Yeah, I would do the same. I don't think, other than West Branch and they did beat Wilton by 35. Yeah, Regina.
Okay. I thought I would get you guys on this. You're both right. Regina has 6. I was really surprised. Western Dubuque just has 1. They've churned out a lot of points. They opened the season with that big win against West Delaware, but that was their only win of 30 points or more. Had a lot of tough games, some games that were like 28, what have you. And then Starmont has 4. So I went Regina 6, Starmont 4, Western Dubuque 1. I thought I'd catch you on that one with Western Dubuque, but I didn't.
We're too sly.
Yep, that's for sure. You guys know your stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, ready for the match game? I wish I would have gotten the match game theme, but of course we may not have the rights for that. Nathan would have to edit it out.
That's not on YouTube?
Probably, maybe somewhere. Halloween is less than 2 weeks away. The team that is the scariest to face or the team that will be the scariest to face is blank.
Is this area?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Are we all ready? You got your answers locked in, guys?
Yep.
All right. So Halloween is less than 2 weeks away. The team that will be the scariest to face is, we touched on him earlier. I've got MFL Marmac.
Lindy?
I went with Underwood.
Underwood. Okay.
They're not area. All right.
You went to the western side
let
of
me
the
think
state.
here.
Who did you have, JJ?
Well, I went with the area only, and I just because it's that time of year, I'm just gonna say Xavier. Can you see
Okay.
that? There you go.
Okay.
There. Does that make? Yeah, there we go. All I gotta do is turn it upside down. Perfect.
So, and I'm just going to reiterate my choice. They host Hudson, but MFL has just been lights out. Started the season really, really strong. Had that little hiccup against Sumner Fred, and has really been dominant with wins over Dyke New Hartford, Denver, and Central Springs um, leading into the postseason. So they're my Mike Myers of the of the postseason here, starting up Friday. So, question number 2: when Friday concludes, the Cedar Rapids Marion Metro will finish with blank playoff qualifiers. So, Linder has 5. I went with 4. You can see that there.
I'm Mr. Pessimistic too.
2.
Yeah, too. I don't know how that works, but yeah.
I think
We don't have to tell you who they are, right?
No. I'll say it.
All right, good.
I'll say it. I think Marion will be in. Xavier Kennedy, obviously. And I think Prairie will get that 4th spot. It very well could be Linmar instead, but we'll see. All right. We've talked a little bit about upsets and stuff like that, but you remember Cujo, right? The Stephen King dog. One of the
He was a
first
bad
horror
dog.
movies I saw. But Cujo was a rabid dog that terrorized everyone that crossed its path. So as far as playoff underdogs, what team will resemble Cujo this Friday? Cujo was a rabid dog that terrorized everyone that crossed its path. What team in the playoffs that's an underdog will resemble Cujo this Friday? I have Denver.
I had Northland or maybe Denver.
That's good.
All right. I don't know why. NFV.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Now they could be
Going with the
Cujo, but
Tiger Hawks.
they could still lose, right? Even
Right.
they could Cujo. Okay, there you go.
It could be. Yeah. A couple others I thought would have been interesting answers. The winner of North Nashua Playing Field and Lake Mills. Why? Both of them have dogs for monikers, Huskies and Bulldog, Lake Mill Bulldogs, right? Did I have that right?
Ah, very good.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. Let's see. I gotta make sure I have my answers in this. Okay, so these are the 2 fun ones here.
Yeah, I didn't have much fun with that.
Oh,
I
really?
had fun with the second one.
Well, I apologize, but here we go. So the coach assessed the value of each player. The player that was the most expensive on his team was the blank.
You got to protect your quarterback.
It's individual team. Okay.
Individual.
Okay.
I say you got to protect your quarterback.
Okay. I had quarterback as well. The reason why was because quarter is monetary value. You know, there's the coin.
Boy.
Ah.
I think we got to the same answer by different routes, but it works.
That's better than a nickelback and a dime package, huh?
Dime back. See, now you see where I was going with it.
All right.
I'm going to say because we live where we live, and we've watched this all year. Punter.
Unless you're at Sigourney
very,
Kyoto.
yeah, very valuable. Okay, so the second one here. Dumb David is so dumb.
How dumb is he?
He's so dumb that he dropped to his knees when he heard they called a blank. You want me to go first?
Yeah.
And remember, I'm Catholic, so I said Hail Mary.
Hail Mary.
There we go.
Quarterback sneak on 4th and 15.
Yeah, you'd have to do that.
That's good. That is dumb. That is dumb.
That is dumb. All right. Well, that was fun again. Guys, remind everybody where you're going to be heading. I'm going to be up at Monticello for the 2A postseason game between North Fayette Valley and the Panthers.
I'm heading to Monticello here in a couple hours for a cross-country meet.
All right.
I'll be at Central City for the Wildcats and the Key High Hawks.
And I will be on the other side of Lynn County for Lisbon and North Lynn. That is the other side, right? Central City from Lisbon.
Kind of
Or
northeast and southeast.
we'll both be in Lynn County. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And remind me, Mike Condon will be at Pleasant Valley at Linmar for that game with the Lions, hoping to crack into the playoffs. Remind me where else we have correspondents covering games.
Oh,
Are we going to be at Prairie West?
I think so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll be there. And
is that a Plague and Cule game?
Yeah, I believe so. So you guys can visit thegazette.com to catch all of our prep coverage. Is not just football as well, volleyball, cross country, coming to critical points of the season there as well. You can check out Jeff Johnson's feature on West Branch at the site as well. Linder has some breakdowns for the playoffs as well. Check out all our content at thegazette.com. Make sure to follow us this Friday, live scoring, updates from the games that we're covering, and much more. So for Jeff, and myself, thanks for watching. Tune in next week and keep your head on the swivel.